Welcome to a special edition of Flip the Cap, the insurance industry's premier podcast. I'm your host, Kathryn Smith, and I'm joining you today from Jencap's headquarters in New York City. We thought what better way to kickstart the year than by sitting down with Jencap CEO, John Jennings. John's one of the founding members of Jencap. Under his leadership, he's grown this company from an idea to over a $3.5 billion company in 7 short years. His strategic vision for Jencap guides the ongoing management of our affiliate companies, along with all of our other M&A activity. John boasts 35 plus years of insurance industry experience, with more than 30 years of that being exclusively dedicated to the wholesale distribution space. In our conversation today, we're going to discuss some market shifting takeaways from 2023 and how some of those items are going to really have an impact on our industry in 2024. He's regularly quoted for his take on various different industry trends, but today we're going to get to peek under the curtain and learn a little bit more about Jencap's fearless leader, which I know you're thrilled about. So without further ado, we're going to pop the top and get into it. So John, thank you very much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Not that you had a choice.
It is my office.
I set up a video crew in your office, so not really sure what you're going to do with that. So let's start our conversation. As someone in your position, what made you get into the insurance industry to begin with?
Well, I mean, like a lot of people, I guess I fell into it a tad, but believe it or not, my father was an insurance journalist. So I grew up hearing about insurance. Grew not really knowing anything about it, but in college, I didn't really love taking a general degree and taking courses that I never could figure out what I was going to use them for again. So I switched my studies, and I actually wound up majoring in insurance in college and graduated with the intent of a career in insurance. So I'm one of the few that...
You did it on purpose.
I actually did it on purpose, yeah. One of the few.
What was your first job in insurance?
First job in insurance was actually as a personal lines retailer that I actually learned an absolute ton from, had a couple terrific mentors, and were able to propel my career at a really early age, and it was a great place to work.
Nice. I would gather that you're a pretty well-traveled man with both personal travels and just where the job takes you. So what is your favorite place you've ever traveled to date?
That's a tough question. I mean, I've traveled the United States extensively. There's so many incredible spots and so many great towns. I would have to say, though, my favorite place that we have traveled to, and we've done it quite frequently, is Ireland.
Okay.
Love it there. I love the culture there, everything it brings. I've been there tons of times for business and funny business, I guess you would call it, with golfing trips. Been there with my family a couple times. It's just it's a terrific spot, and we love going back.
What's a place that's still on your bucket list that you have yet to travel to?
Well, this one's going to sound way out there, but my family thinks I'm insane. But I want to go to Rwanda and do the mountain gorilla tour.
Okay. That's not what I was expecting you to say.
I know. That's not what anybody's expecting.
What is it about that trip that interests you?
It just to me, it just looks incredible. It looks like a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and it's it's just a incredible nature, incredible area of the world that I know little to nothing about, and would love to experience it just once.
I hope you get the chance to.
I do too.
What's your greatest accomplishment?
That's a loaded question.
Let's say greatest personal accomplishment, yeah. Okay. And greatest professional, because...
Well, listen, I'm married with 3 sons, so let's face it, if I didn't mention that, I'd be in big trouble personally, at home. I would look like the greatest guy in the world. So clearly, I think it's my family from a personal perspective. Business-wise, certainly Jencap has been kind of the culmination of a whole bunch of different career moves, and certainly a lot of risk at the beginning of the journey of getting Jencap off the ground. And so to have it grow to this point, and to have the staff and the team that we have built around it, and I don't mean just corporately, right? I mean, we have 1,400 employees, I think, at this point around the country. So that I think clearly is the greatest accomplishment.
What would you say is the number one habit, whether it's daily or otherwise, that has had the most positive impact on your life?
Yeah, it's another good question, right? For a guy with ADHD as bad as me, it's hard to say I have a consistent effort. a consistent habit, I guess. And, the old saying, 80% of the job is just showing up. There's I think a lot to be said for that. Showing up consistently is 80%, but it's that other 20%, right? What do you put into it? And whether you do that through just pure work effort, which is probably more mine, or whether you're just really wicked smart, or, whatever that other piece gets you, that separates you, that 20% that separates you from the person that just shows up 80% of the time. They may have a nice career and do really well, but, it's the people that I think find what to do with that other 20%. And I think it's different for different people, but, for me, it was clearly, grinding it out, traveling all over the country and trying to get the job done the best way I could and try to outwork our competition.
And here we are. Or here I am because of what you did. All the above.
Definitely a collaborative effort, no doubt about it.
Yeah. For someone who is either just graduating from college or might be a seasoned professional just looking to make a change to a different industry, what would you say to convince someone to join the insurance industry? What is it about our industry specifically that you think makes such a valuable career?
Yeah, I think the industry itself, if you looked at the industry, the insurance industry as a whole, it's so expansive from what you could experience, right? There are so many different ways your career could go. If you wanted to stay in finance, God knows the insurance industry is built around finance, right? It's not only protecting your own investments from an insurance company perspective, but obviously protecting the assets of the public, right? And so it's a noteworthy cause, right? The industry overall, it's actually protecting the assets of the United States economy and probably the global economy. But there's just so many. No matter what interest you have, probably in college, there is a part of the insurance it absolutely applies to, right? Whether you're, an environmental scientist, there's clearly a gigantic piece of our industry that's wrapped around that. Whether it's weather, whether it's finance, there's our finance, marketing. There's almost nothing you could do in college where there wouldn't be something applicable to the insurance industry. So I think the insurance industry gets a bad rap of being a small, finite type of industry where all you do is sit behind a desk, and it just couldn't be less true.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I second that. So I want you to fill in the blank. Ready?
Probably not.
My favorite part about my job is blank.
It's clear I'm a people type person, so my favorite part is just the people. We have an incredible team. That's really all I do at this point, right? I just deal with other people. I don't work accounts anymore, so I'm dealing with our employees, I'm dealing with our clients, I'm dealing with our carriers. And so you better like dealing with people, or I think this would be a really hard job. So by far, that's the best part of what I like doing.
Well, I imagine as many years as you've been in the industry, you've fostered some really meaningful personal relationships
Sure.
with people that you work with professionally.
Yeah, and I think, if you were talking to somebody just entering the insurance industry, what you just touched on, I think would probably be one of the single best recommendations for they should take up, right? It is developing relationships. When I first started in the wholesale industry, I knew none of the underwriters, right? And so your job really, and as I tell all of our young people out there, is your job, your first 6 months to a year, you got to get out there and get to know people, right? And they have to know you. And so you want them to pick up your phone call. You want them to get your account at the top of the pile. You have to know the individuals you're dealing with. And I think fostering those relationships is by far, on our side of the business especially, the single most critical thing you can do, other than obviously being a product line expertise, right? That's what your clients are expecting you to have. But to get a deal done, you have to have a broad spectrum of relationships developed, and it's critical to your success.
So I want to take it back to March of 2016, which was really the birthday of date of birth for Jencap Holdings LLC, which was the original entity that you created.
Correct.
Talk about the series of events that surrounded March 2016 that brought Jencap to life.
Sure. We had started, I'd run several other pretty large wholesalers, and we decided to kind of break the mold and start a different type of wholesaler, a wholesale company we had called WTCI. And it really was very different. It was pretty successful in its own right, got off the ground pretty quick. Some of the original founders of that company are still with us today, and some of our most successful employees here at Jencap. But after being in that for several years, I realized that model had become kind of self-limiting from a growth perspective, and from being able to attract real high-quality talent further into the company. So we knew we wanted to get much bigger. We had to get much bigger to survive. We wanted to be able to do a much broader wide of client. We wanted to be able to do a $1,500 startup binding authority account. We wanted to do, the largest of the largest casualty and property accounts. So to do that, I knew we had to go out and raise money and start an M&A type. We weren't going to be able to do that organically at the pace that we would have needed. So we went out and we raised money from a company called the Carlyle Group. Was our first investor. They were a great partner. And, I hate to say it because it's going to come back to bite me, but we laid out a 5-year kind of plan as to what we wanted to accomplish. And, it's amazing when a plan comes together. We're 7 years into it now, and we're way ahead of where we had anticipated being at our 5-year plan. So really happy about the way the company progressed, but I'm, thankful to the original investors that got us off the ground, and the original couple of companies that had the trust to sell to us, right? Because you have to make that first acquisition, and you have to convince people that this is going to be a great environment, that this is going to be a company that's going to continue to grow, and that your equity in this company is going to be much more valuable than it is today. And so those first couple of entities that took the leap of faith, I owe a lot to them.
I'm sure they're very happy with their decisions.
I think they are. As we all are, yeah, no doubt.
M&A is obviously a huge element of our growth strategy. We've been very successful with organic growth as well. But what are some of the key determining factors when you're deciding if a company is a good fit to join Jencap, and conversely, what do you think the value is that we bring to them?
Yeah, listen, I think we're looking for leadership. Probably most importantly, we're looking for people that want to stay with the company. We want to look at the growth history of the company and why the company is going to continue to grow, right? That's usually because of really good leadership and good thought about client and good thought about where to expand and how to expand. Real expertise that's built into the company. We spend a lot of time. Most of our acquisitions actually came through relationships that either I or others in the company already had, that we spent a long time cultivating. And we've been very successful with that. And I think, the people that are monetizing their investment in themselves and in their company, you have to be able to show them why your company is a good place for them to sell their baby, right? That's what most of these things are. These guys have built something, they've created something, they have people that are depending upon them, and those people are looking for a good outcome. So you have to be able to demonstrate why your company is that, right? And so I think it changes over time. If you went back, 7 years ago, the question, it's different as to why is it a good place to be today, right? Very different. And originally it was a place to perpetuate your business and continue doing pretty much what you were doing, because we didn't have anything else. We didn't have a corporate team to help take some of the stuff off their back. The people that are in our management team today have all come from, really almost exclusively from, an acquisition. And so we've been able to take really talented people, combine them all together, and form one cohesive company. So I think if you were selling your company to Jencap today, it's about coming to a really stable environment, to a company that really understands your business, that's really going to be able to help you grow your company, whether that be through new products, new carriers, new clients, technology, whatever it might be. We're that partner that can really help somebody that wants to continue to grow their business. So we don't buy and implode. We're looking to buy companies that we truly feel we can grow, and we feel their management matches up with that. So it's been a really successful theory, and we're going to stick with that.
The M&A landscape was very different in 2023 than it was in years past. So based on what we saw last year, as we head into 2024, what do you think you will expect to see in the world of M&A in the insurance industry, not necessarily Jencap specific?
Mm-hmm. Well, listen, I don't have a crystal ball, but I mean, I think obviously there's so much money invested from a private equity perspective in our industry that I don't think that can come to a complete halt. Obviously 23 slowed down dramatically if you look year over year numbers from 19, 20, 21, and then it started to slow down at 22, and obviously 23, a gigantic slowdown. It'll depend on what the rating environments look like. What does the interest rate environment look like? Does the debt market stabilize? I mean, there's going to be a bunch of factors that go into this, and some of it's going to be depending on what buyers need, right? And then what assets come up for sale. So I can't imagine it being as slow as 23. We have a couple acquisitions that we'll announce early in the first quarter that we're pretty happy about, that we were able to win those. And so we're just in the middle of due diligence and filing those. And so we're excited about that. And I think there's enough properties from what I can see will come onto the market in 24 that I have a hard time believing it won't pick up to some degree. And I think you're seeing the market stabilize a little bit, and they'll get accustomed to what the new is and move forward.
How was Jencap's performance? Can you recap Jencap's performance from 2023?
For 23? Yeah, sure. I mean, another really good year, right? I mean, I hate to say it, and people hear me say it all the time. If you're not doing well as a wholesaler right now, you probably should be doing something different. I mean,
yeah.
The markets have cooperated, right? The markets and rates have continued to go up. The influx of E&S business into the market from the admitted markets is staggering, right? I mean, we're talking about $150 billion market where, 30 years ago, maybe it was 20. So, it's a dramatically different game today, and it's a much bigger game, and the wholesalers have a much more, visible opportunity and visible player in the space. So, 23 was a terrific year. Beat budget again, same as in 21 and 22. And I think 24, I think we'll see some stabilization of rates. Clearly, certain parts of our business have dramatically increased rate, kind of 3 or 4 years in a row. Not really sure that can happen again, but, I'm certainly not going to sit here and tell you it can't. I will tell you that I have not heard the property reinsurance rates being as dramatic on the renewals for coming up for 1/1. But even so, I mean, the amount of business that's still getting pushed into the E&S market should just continue the overall growth of our sector. And it's not just Jencap, by the way. I mean, obviously, we're talking about the E&S sector overall. So all the good wholesalers should have another pretty good year, based upon effort and product and talent.
As we turn the page to 2024, what are some of the key trends that you anticipate really impacting the insurance industry?
Well, the industry overall, I think, has, handled, the markets really well, right? It's what they do. It's why it's adjusted. That's why the E&S side of the business has really grown, right? Because business has moved out of the admitted marketplace where they can't adjust to quickly changing effects, such as weather, climate, or whatever you want to call it, or, hurricane risk. I think wildfire, one of our greatest examples of, well, that never happened before. Oh, it happened 2 years in a row, and the admitted market can't really adjust quick enough from a rate perspective, from a filing perspective, and so on. So that business starts to shift dramatically into the E&S space. I see that continuing, right? I think that's going to be a trend because the E&S space has gotten bigger, it's gotten more capitalized, and so it's going to be able to handle more. And I think you'll see that continue, which, obviously that inures to wholesalers' benefits. So I think that should continue in 24. I think clearly the continued value of the MGA, program administrator, whatever you want to call it, play, I think will continue to grow, right? There's a lot of expertise out there that wants to take advantage of that. And so I think you'll see that continue, the growth of it. We clearly have several plans for new programs within our program group that are already well down the developmental plan that will start in 2024. So that's a really key development that we'll continue to push because we see ourselves as a huge player in that business long term, right? I think us being a $5 billion program player is not out of the question in a period of time. So we'll continue that. I think you'll see the property market still be a very difficult place. Like we mentioned, I think a little bit earlier, it may not be the extreme hard market that it was, but I don't see it getting softer. I mean, maybe in some places, but for the most part, tough to place business is going to continue to be tough to place business. And that market is ever evolving with entrants coming in, capital coming in and out of it. So I can see that as still a very large growth opportunity for the company. Personal lines, for our company is a nice sized business. I could see that being a five-timer of what we are today. And that's just because the same dynamics that we talked to earlier. It used to be all standard lines business, and now it's really getting pushed in many states into the E&S market, and I don't see that changing. I don't see it reversing course and going back the other way. So it's something we have to focus on. Casualty, which is probably our largest product line across the country, is still, tough accounts are tough accounts. And, I think if you look at what some carriers and a lot of carriers are saying about their loss development on the years prior to COVID and the pandemic and the shutdown or whatever you want to call it, that development is getting pretty severe. So I can't see how the market is going to just soften relatively quickly. We could definitely see some leveling off, but accounts that have challenges, accounts that have loss issues, those accounts are still going to get underwritten very, very tight, and companies are going to be looking for increase in rate on those things. So still have some wind at our back, as an overall industry, and I don't see that changing in 24.
Jencap is a lot of things to a lot of people. We specialize in wholesale brokerage, we specialize in binding authority, and we specialize in program management. It requires a very different person for each job. And then within each of those three verticals, you have so many various different product lines and industries that are so nuanced and specialized that you really need a very, very knowledgeable, experienced broker handling each of those various pieces of business, which really makes us unique. But if you're a retail agent who is listening to this that isn't potentially working with Jencap today, why should they be working with Jencap? What's our real advantage that we offer to each of those areas of specialization?
Listen, it's it's kind of the $100,000 question, right? So there's a lot of great wholesalers in the industry, not just at Jencap. What I do think truly has separated us from the pack is the way we do business, the way we conduct business internally with each other. I don't see that type of reciprocal information going around in other places, right? Here, if the best person for the job, if the account comes into New York, but the best person for the job is in California, that person in California is getting it without any management having to get involved. Tell them it's just the right thing to do for your client. And we've become incredibly successful at a saying that I kind of rued for 30 years, right? The word cross-sale. It's something you really just can't force, especially in our industry. It's just like you said, you got a product specialist and he doesn't want to leave it, but he's getting paid that way. We somehow have really figured out how to overcome that block. And it's a fun thing to watch because I really am not driving it, right? It's really been created by us getting people together, people getting to know each other, people trusting each other, people really understanding what people are good at, and then accessing that talent. And that is a difference maker. I mean, we have won hundreds of accounts because we wound up going out and getting the best expertise in the company to handle that account. And, our clients see that. Yeah. All of a sudden they send it to, Mr. Smith, and, Mrs. Wilson is calling him back saying she's got the answer for it, and he's never even met Mrs. Wilson. So, our ability to do that internally is a difference maker. It's a difference maker definitely for our clients. That's for sure.
It's interesting. Every single person, I interview a lot of our top brokers at Jencap for the podcast and other various interviews. And without me putting words in anyone's mouth, what every single person, every single time says of why they love working at Jencap, what makes Jencap unique in the marketplace and a wholesaler that they're proud to work for, but also that retail partners should benefit from working, is every single time it's collaborative approach.
Yeah.
We have a collaborative approach, and there's, it's interesting, the people within our organization that really deserve to have the biggest ego are the ones that say, we check our ego at the door. Because at the end of the day, it's all about what our retail partner needs, setting them up for success, which is ultimately making sure that our insureds have the protection and the insurance solutions that they need. And I love working at Jencap and being a part of the organization for all the same reasons.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, but you have to foster that, right? You have to, I'm not sure you can't force it, but you have to foster the relationships, the ability to learn and getting people together. Right? I mean, that's just, if you don't know somebody, you're not gonna trust them with your account. So we've tried to foster that, but I mean, the individuals across the country have taken it upon themselves to really get after that culture and foster it, and it's fun to watch.
It shows. It
certainly
does. I mean, you can't fake that.
No, you can't fake it. We just had our top producer event out in Arizona, and you bring 60 certainly type A producers together. It's usually an event for sure, but this was like 60 friends getting together that all were fired up to be working together. So it was
cheering each other on, also sharing in each other's successes.
100%.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, pretty unusual.
Yeah. So if we're sitting here a year from now, what do you want to be able to say that Jencap has accomplished?
Yeah, I mean, at this point, right, we've started some programs with training young people. That's been incredibly successful. Our internship program has been incredibly successful. I should say incredibly, it's 2 years in, right? But the talent that we've been able to attract, the reviews that we've gotten about our program because of the time we spent developing a real program. These kids aren't coming in and just making copies for somebody.
Yeah.
These kids are coming in and learning the industry. They're learning what it is like to be a wholesaler. They're learning what it's like to be in a collaborative environment.
And get exposure to you and our executives. And
everybody. Watching that piece grow, how many of those interns we've already been able to hire and bring into the company?
I met 2 today.
Right? And they're
in this
terrific.
small
and
office,
they're in like 4 or 5 different offices already. So, for us to be able to do that year in, year out, and say 5 years from now, you have 25, 30 young employees that started with you, that learned the business with you, saw the great character that's going on throughout the company, then, that's hugely successful. And then, just we need to continue to grow. We need to continue our M&A expansion. I clearly can see us being we'll close north of $3.5 billion in 23, and we have goals to be over $4 billion in 24, and I can see us being well north of a 5 in a relatively short period of time. So, it's a lot of work, and it's a lot of integration work that goes behind it, and you've been part of our, technology journey and trying to pull that all together and take 20 systems and make it one. But, those are all really worthwhile jobs and projects in the end because they bring the company together.
I could sit and talk to you forever, but considering I literally hijacked your office, I'm going to let you get back to it. Yeah. But I really appreciate you coming. Thank you. You're tuning in to Flip the Cap, the insurance industry's premier podcast, where insurance insights flow and trending topics are always on tap. We'll see you next time. Cheers.